Hey guys, welcome back to Mr. Levy's Math Room. We have been together for a while. Now, what we want to look at today is graphing linear equations. So that's graphing linear equations. Now, just before we get into graphing, I want us to talk about a few things before we actually get into graphing. So, remember we did linear equation before, and we say a linear equation simply means a straight line. So if we are to graph that equation, then we will get a straight line. Alright, so when we talk about linear equation, we're talking about a straight line. Now, this here is a general formula for the equation of the line. Alright, so y equals mx plus c. Y equals mx plus c. That's a general formula for the equation of a line. Alright, now we can also represent it as the function of x equals mx plus c. Alright, so if you hear the function of x equals mx plus c, it means the same thing. So we simply replace y with the function of x. So you hear the function of x, it's the same thing as saying y equals mx plus c. So if you see this equation, it means the same as that one. Now, let's look at what each one of these terms in these equations mean. Now, let me put this in red. Now, in the equation, we have y equals mx plus c, where m is referred to as the gradient. Alright? M is the gradient. So let's write that. So m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Alright, so remember, m represents the gradient and c represents the y-intercept. Now, what is the gradient? The gradient tells us how the line is sloped, or this tells us about the steepness of the line. Right? When we talk about the gradient of a hill, we're talking about how steep the hill is. Alright? We're talking about how it slopes. There's a slope to the right, there's a slope to the left. Is it very steep or not, or flat, and so on. Alright? So the gradient tells us how steep the slope is, alright? Or how steep the line is, or how it is sloped. Alright. Now the y-intercept tells us where the line crosses the y-axis. Alright, so the y-intercept tells us where the line crosses the y-axis. Alright, so same thing here. So if we were to write this equation, y equals 3x minus 2. Alright, now this equation in y equals 3x minus 2, now what will be the gradient of this line, or the slope of the line? So the gradient would be 3, alright? And the y-intercept would be negative 2, okay? Now let's look at another equation. So if we have this equation, the function of x equals 5x plus 3. 5x plus 3, so 5 would represent the gradient and the 3 represents the y-intercept. Alright, so remember, so the gradient is the coefficient of x, and then the constant is the y-intercept. Alright, so remember, the constant represents the y-intercept and the coefficient of x represents the gradient of the line, or the slope of the line. Alright, some persons will call it the slope of the line, some will say the gradient of the line, but it means the same thing. Alright, and we'll say the gradient tells us about the steepness of the line. Alright, so if you're going up a hill, you can talk about the gradient of the hill, or the slope of the hill. Alright, how it slopes up or how it slopes down. Now, whether the gradient is negative or positive, right, then that tells us how the line is sloped, but we will look at that in another session. Right, now, how do we find the gradient of a line? Right? Now, the gradient of a line, some persons say is the vertical rise over the horizontal run. Now, let's say we have these 2 points, so P is equal to 4, 2, and Q is 1, 1. Right, so we have these 2 points, right? So remember now, this is a point, and a point is made up of 2 coordinates, right? So we have the x coordinate and the y coordinate, right? So, and we write which coordinate first? We have the x coordinate followed by the y coordinate. Let's just write this the other way around. So let's write 2, 4, right? So 2 would represent which coordinate? The x coordinate. So x, y, x, y. Right? So the x coordinate comes first, followed by the y coordinate. Alright? And together the x coordinate and the y coordinate, they make a point. Alright? So this is a point, so this is point P, this is point Q. Alright, so remember now, a point is made up of what? 2 coordinates. It's made up of an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Alright, and together they make a point. Now to find the gradient using these 2 points, we can find the gradient of the line. Alright? So we see the gradient represented by the letter M. The gradient is equal to the vertical rise, TICAL, over the horizontal run. Or some persons simply say rise, and I'm going to write it here. So rise over run. Right? Some persons simply say that, rise over run. Right? But the gradient is found by taking the vertical rise over the horizontal run, or we see the ratio of the vertical rise over the to the horizontal run. Now, what does that mean? Now, the vertical rise, when we talk about vertical rise and we think about the x and the y axis or the Cartesian plane, let's alright. Now, when we talk about when we talk about the vertical rise over the horizontal run or rise over run, the vertical axis would be which one? The vertical axis would be the y-axis. So it means we are going to have the y coordinates then over the horizontal, the coordinates that are on the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis would be the x-axis. Alright? So let's do that. So we can write now M for gradient. We use the letter M to represent the gradient or the slope of the line. Right, so M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Right? So we have the vertical rise, that's the y coordinates over the x coordinate. Right? So in this case, we could say this would be y. Let's call this y2. It doesn't really matter. y2, x2, x1, y1. Right? Okay. So we have what? That would give us, let's put it on this side, 4 minus 1 over 2 minus 1. I know 4 minus 1 is equal to 3 over 2 minus 1 is 1. So our gradient then is equal to 3. Alright? Now, if you notice, can you see that? You may not be able to see that. So let me just move it. So we have m is equal to 3 over 1 equals 3. Alright? So the gradient is 3. Now, if we, alright, let's leave it at that. So the gradient is equal to 3. Alright? So let's hold that. So that's how we find the gradient of the line. We can take, given a graph, we can take any 2 points on the line and we can find our slope, or we can find the gradient of the line. Alright, so we will leave it at that. So remember now, to find the gradient of the line, we take the vertical rise, divide the vertical rise by the horizontal run, and that will give us our gradient. So we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that gives us m. And remember that we said that this is the general formula for the equation of the line, where m is equal to the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Alright, so c is the y-intercept and m is the gradient. Alright, now let's just leave it at that for now. So remember, this is what we do to find the gradient of the line. Alright? Okay, so we'll just move to finding the just to look at how we draw the straight line graph in our next session. Alright? Or we could just, alright, in our next session. So I'll see you next time. You continue to like and subscribe and continue to share the videos. And I trust that you have been revising and preparing for your exams, for those students who will be having their final exams for internal exams just maybe in a few days, or you'd have started already. So blessings, see you next time, peace.